Back to the daily grind, and shout out to the full-time patrons. Make sure to hit subscribe if you're new and hit thumbs up if you're not a baby back bagel biting bitch boy, cause you know what time it is. It's full time.
MMA.
Yo, God, the thing goes pop, skitty kid pop pop, and the boom.
Back to the UFC, the ultimate fighting circus, and we got some full-time fuckery going on in the light heavyweight division. This, of course, is in the Jon Jones-Daniel Cormier saga, but the light heavyweight saga, because we've got Alexander Gustafsson, former UFC light heavyweight title challenger, jumping in the mix as well. But this is interesting because it looks like DC and Jon Jones actually have a mutual opponent, and they're teaming up in this Twitter war against Alexander Gustafsson, the Mauler, who just signed a new UFC contract and threw a little bit of shade at Daniel Cormier, who's been talking about retirement. Now, with that being said, let's touch a little bit on what's leading into this before we go over this Twitter war between these three. Couple jokes, and then Jon Jones even pulled a couple pages out of his old roommate Colby Covington's book in the end, which was like, I think Colby Covington does it a little better, but we'll get into that at the end. First of all, Alexander Gustafsson said, while others are talking about retirement, I just signed my new deal with the UFC today. And he, it was an Instagram post he shared, and he's also in talks. We know Alexander Gustafsson's been in talks lately about fighting possibly for an interim title, maybe versus Luke Rockhold or someone else, because Daniel Cormier, the current light heavyweight champion, is fighting Stipe Miocic at UFC 226 in a champion versus champion super fight on a stacked card. And if DC goes on to win that heavyweight belt, it's still not clear whether or not he's going to immediately drop back down to light heavyweight and defend, take some time off, go for a Brock Lesnar super fight, because if he does end up beating Miocic and fighting Brock Lesnar, then we're definitely going to be having an interim champion at light heavyweight in the meantime, which Alexander Gustafsson will be a part of that fight. So he just signed a new deal with the UFC, and he could be looking at UFC gold in his future, but at the same time it might be interim gold, and there's been a lot of, devaluing on UFC belts because of these interim champions. And if Mauler does, Alexander Gustafsson does become the interim light heavyweight champion, no one's going to look at him as a champion as far as fans are concerned. Definitely if he doesn't have a win over DC, let alone Jon Jones, who Alexander Gustafsson has lost to both of those guys. But they were both decisions, you know what I'm saying, and close decisions. So with that being said, Alexander Gustafsson just signed a new deal. Daniel Cormier, he's a busy man, took a couple days to respond. He said, Alex, what exactly have you accomplished in your career? I've earned the right to retire on top. Your greatest accomplishment is 2 close losses. Congrats on the new contract. No, go fight. It's been 2 years. Enough with the social media. He sounds a little bit like Habib there. Enough with the social media. You know what I'm saying? But I like DC's response. A couple jabs, but yo, facts. That is Alexander Gustafsson's biggest accomplishments as a mixed martial artist. He went 5 rounds with Jon Jones, had Jon Jones. We all know the infamous picture in the hospital. Jon Jones was the one laying in the hospital bed. Gustafsson standing beside him. Really close decision. But in order to be the champion, you have to beat the champion. And it went to decision. Jon Jones got his hand raised. Gustafsson also has fought Daniel Cormier, another one of the greatest light heavyweights of all time. He wasn't able to get the job done, but when you think about Alexander Gustafsson's biggest accomplishments, it's not becoming the champion, it's fighting for the belt and against Jon Jones and DC. So DC's hitting him with a little bit of facts, but to be fair, he's not coming out of nowhere. Gustafsson said, while others are talking about retirement, DC's a guy undefeated at light heavyweight, 13 fights, been fighting forever, moved down to light heavyweight, didn't lose to anybody not named Jon Jones. He's approaching 40 years old. He's about to fight for the heavyweight title. If anybody's got the right to retire on top, it's probably Daniel Cormier. He's also got the Fox gig. He's doing commentating. He's got a podcast. Daniel Cormier is already going to probably be in the UFC Hall of Fame. He don't really have anything left to prove in the sport. He doesn't need to fight for money anymore. Daniel Cormier can retire anytime he wants. So for him to be talking about retirement is completely logical. So Gustafsson threw a little shade at the others that are talking about retirement. Daniel Cormier hit him with a little response, and guess who appreciated the response? Guess who enjoyed it of all people? Daniel Cormier's biggest rival, John Bones Jones. He took to Twitter and said, I don't even like Daniel Cormier and I enjoyed this. It's too funny. Alex, bring all your tough guy shit to the championship rounds next time. Oh, damn, bruh. John Jones fucking shots fired. Shots fired. Well, he didn't even just come in and say, I don't even like DC, but I liked this. He threw a couple fucking big shots at Gustafsson himself. He said, bring all this tough guy shit to the championship rounds next time, because it was a close fight. And a lot of people believe John Jones really took over in the fights, maybe in the 4th and 5th rounds. But hold on. Gustafsson is not going to let that slide. You think he's just going to get jumped by DC and John Jones on Twitter and not fire back? Wow, he said, hold on, John Jones. All this championship rounds talk. This is what he had to say. Laughing emoji. Coming from you, man. Being tough is going true. The champ rounds without the good stuff. Being tough is going through, I think he meant to say, the champion rounds without the good stuff. Now step up and I'll show you. With that being said, this is a fight. John Jones talking about coming back. You know, not talking about coming back because he's suspended, but there's talks of his suspension not being 4 years, and if his suspension is shortened and he is able to come back anytime soon, at the end of this year, beginning of next year, he could very well be a guy fighting for the interim title against Gustafsson. A lot of people want to see that rematch. It was a close fight. John Jones won the fight, but that would be the legitimate, you know, if Daniel Cormier is fighting Brock Lesnar, fighting at heavyweight, John Jones, if he came back, would be the #1 contender, aside from Alexander Gustafsson. So Alexander Gustafsson's like, okay, well, you know, you're taking shots at me. How about if you're coming back, how about we fight? Instead of just talking about, you know, without the good stuff. You saw us here, you know what I'm saying? He got popped in his last fight, John Jones, so fair play. You know what's crazy though? Since Alexander Gustafsson and John Jones fought the first time, John Jones has been stripped of the belt 3 times. I didn't realize he had been stripped 3 times, you know what I'm saying? 1 time was legal issues, the 2 times were because of drug test failures. But either way, man, they might be fighting. John Jones could be fighting again for the belt. Man, he might be breaking records as far as the guy most stripped. What if he comes back, wins the belt, get stripped again? That would be crazy, but that's another topic for another day. Because John Jones, I want to cover his responses to Alexander Gustafsson. I know this has been, these guys are, I mean, but when John Jones is suspended, I guess this is the only way you can really fight John Jones is on Twitter. This is a lot of Twitter, you know, going over a lot of Twitter stuff here between these guys. But it's pretty good, so let's continue. As I said, Gustafsson said, being tough is going through the champion rounds without the good stuff. Of course, alluding to John Jones' failed drug test, saying, you know, I like what Gustafsson's saying there, because to be fair, we don't 100% know if we've seen John Jones without the good stuff. He failed the test with USADA around. When he fought OSP, he didn't look amazing. People were talking about that performance versus OSP. John Jones didn't look great. Then when he came back and did look great versus Daniel Cormier, he popped. So, but John Jones responded, and this is where he pulled out his inner Colby Covington. Here, I'll let you go. I cringed a little. John Jones had me cringing. This is what he had to say first. He said, brilliant comeback, just what I expected from you. I guess Shogun, Rampage, and Bader could all use the same excuse now too. Do you look yourself in the mirror and call yourself the champion now that I cheated? It's like, whoa, John Jones. And he put it in quotation marks, you know, I cheated in quotation marks. Like, so you're saying because I failed a drug test for trace amounts that, do you feel like the champion now? Because even if that were the case, DC would be the champion, you know what I'm saying? But either way, John Jones continued. He said, please tell me you convinced yourself that I was on steroids during our fight. Please tell me that you convinced yourself I was ever on steroids. In one more tweet, this is the Colby Covington. He said, the only good stuff I used to send you packing was my big old American balls. Try spending a little more time here. Maybe you'll learn a thing or two. Like, I don't know about that one. I mean, Colby Covington might have enjoyed that last tweet. I was kind of cringing a little bit at it. Like, the only good stuff I used was my big old American balls. It wasn't the fucking shit I popped for. But whatever, man, it is what it is. John Jones, I think he got a little bit offended at Alexander Gustafsson's tweet because he started firing back. But either way, the most interesting part here was when John Jones, you know, he's like, hey, I don't even like DC, but that was some good shit. It ended up unfolding into all of this. With that being said, man, it is what it is. Shout out to, I believe, Gary Kincher Jr. and if not, Trollbuster. Either way, shout out to both of you. Somebody said, hey, they requested this video. They pointed out a lot of this back and forth, and then I didn't even see John Jones firing back like this. You know what I'm saying? So with that being said, it is what it is. Let the full-time family know what you think in the comments. And as always, thanks for watching this video. If you enjoyed this video, make sure you hit the subscribe button and also hit the notification bell right next to it so you're notified every time I upload a video. I'm out.
This is #1 bullshit.